Hey y'all, I got a question on YouTube in the comments about how do I get my spouse on board with the preparedness lifestyle. And so here in a little bit, we're going to go talk with my spouse, and I'm going to let her give you her opinion on how I effectively badgered her into this lifestyle. But see, I did it myself. Badgering is not what we want to do. I've been saying a lot on Patreon, and these are the kinds of things that we answer on Patreon. It's what we do at Patreon. We do mini consults. You guys know the deal. It's $1 a month. So you can go check that out if you dig this pointed response question and answer. That's our MO on Patreon. So I've been saying a lot on Patreon that preparedness has a branding issue, and I believe it does. And now I see Pastor Joe has been engaging in this discourse as well there, has offered his thoughts on Patreon about the preparedness branding issue. And let me explain to you why that is applicable. Your wife, your friends, your neighbors, your family, your church group, for example, how do you get them on board? For example, I need to do some work on this here 5.4 liter Ford boat anchor right now because where'd it go? Doesn't matter. Somewhere in here. Oh, it's in the truck. One of the coil packs just popped off the valve cover. Because that happens, right? Now, it's valuable to me to know how to work on these things. That's not an SHTF, the end of the world as we know it, man, skill. It could be, but it's not. I have rows of beans right here. Again, that's gardening. Is it applicable to SHTF? Yep. Do I plant these beans for when the zombie apocalypse happens? No, I plant them because I like beans. You know the number one reason I plant beans? My youngest daughter loves shelling beans. And I love watching her shell beans. So, now I could eat them. We're gonna eat them, and we'll plant more of them. But my motivation on these things is not operating from a position of fear. It's operating from a position of joy. I like being able to, for example, I can take this axe right here. There's actually a video on Patreon of me swinging this axe. I can take that axe right there and walk out into these woods anywhere out here and knock a tree over, lay a tree down, limb it out, process that wood. And I don't mean like just little trees, but big trees. Take it down and turn it into building material or fuel for a fire or what have you. And that's not an SHTF thing. That's keeping the old ways. And it makes you strong. Builds your confidence. Look, this tarp shelter here, it's now the community hangout spot. So yeah, that's an SHTF thing, but it's not. Got my wool blanket hanging up because it got rained on. I love this. That's not the end of the world as you know it, man. Blanket. It's on the bedroll on my rucksack. So a lot of it, I think I've illustrated the point here. I think I've beat this dead horse enough that the branding issue is in large part our fault. Yes, the mass media has let us be branded and made us be branded as idiots and fearmongers and, tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists, but we haven't helped that. And so I would encourage you, when you're talking with people that you want to bring into the fold, if they like gardening, get them to garden. Not just because the world's gonna end, man. You might end before the world does, which is something a lot of people forget about. Do not hasten the day. I do not want an event to happen ever. But, I just had to delete some idiot's comments about, what are you going to do when the hunter-gatherers and the starving masses are killing your family and raping your children? Well, number one, if that's where your mind goes to immediately, get off of my channel. Number two, you don't know me that well. If you think you're going to make it 3 steps down my driveway with those intentions in your heart, you're dead wrong, literally. But that's where you go? Come on, man. You need to meet people where they're at. If they like gardening, hang out with them because they like gardening. And then you can eventually steer that relationship towards, hey, you know what, Tom, you're an awesome gardener. Have you ever thought about how much food you would have to produce if all you did was eat off of your backyard? That's where you bring the conversation to. Don't start there. So that's one thing, is meet people where they are at. And the skill sets that they already have, the hobbies that they already have, the things that they are already interested in, identify those things that are applicable to a preparedness lifestyle. As Pastor Joe calls it, neo-pioneering, which I think is a great term. Homesteading, modern homesteading, I think is another really good term. The modern homestead, because it's not just, you preppers have heard this, right? The beans versus bullets equation, right? It's not either or, it's both. So you meet people where they're at, right? Find out what's that thing that gets them ticking, and then use that as your in, right? The other thing that I think it's important to do is to phrase these conversations in such a way that it makes sense to people logically, because there's a lot of mysticism around what we do and why we do it, and everybody has their own pet scenario. Economic collapse coupled with grid down and civil unrest, man. I have said before, my goal is to be so independent of the system that when the system collapses, somebody has to come tell me a few weeks later. Am I there? No, not even close. Man, I'm holding an iPhone on a selfie stick. Who am I to chastise people about the system, right? Let's be honest here. But I would love to be that way. But you have to, in the same way, you would sit your mom down and say, Ma, I'm not sure you have enough, I don't think your home insurance policy is very robust. I think we need to examine this policy. Your homeowners kind of sucks. You might say, Mom, we get a lot of storms here, Ma. What would you do if you couldn't go to the store for 3 weeks? I don't want you to starve to death. Or, we spend a lot of money to make sure that we have health insurance as a family or whatever. And I'm not getting into this with you guys. I'm using it as an example. We spend a lot of money and a lot of time to make sure that we have insurance to mitigate against risk for things that have a certain likelihood. Don't confuse probability and possibility. Okay, the possibility means could it happen? Yes. The probability means how likely is it to happen? Which again is a whole nother rabbit hole that we're not going to dive into right now. But insurance exists to mitigate risk. So preparedness can be seen as life insurance. or life assurance. The assured continuation of life to one degree or another. And that's another way to broach the subject of saying, you know, hey man, I care about you. Maybe it's, you know, Bob from your small group at church. Or maybe it's, you know, Jolene who's 2 cubicles over from you and you guys just love to hang out on your coffee breaks. Or these people that are in your life that you feel convicted to talk to, but you don't really know how. Well, meet them where they're at. Find out about them. Don't make it all about you and your hobbies, your crazy tinfoil hat. Meet them where they are at. And then once you meet them there, steer the direction towards, hey, this thing is applicable to preparedness. What if? Have you ever thought about what would you do? The insurance policy conversation. And that's a great way to get people on board, I've found, who aren't into preparedness. And by the way, I am shirking the word prepper. I'm over it. I'm over it because I don't do the thumbnails, the YouTube thumbnails with the print just splattered across the screen with the city on fire in the background and the guy with a gas mask on and he's holding his AR-15 and the world has ended. Man, screw all that nonsense. Neo-pioneering, check. Modern homesteading, check. Preparedness lifestyle, check. Prepper, nah. Not me, man. I'm not one of those. And that you need to be careful, says me. You asked my opinion and I'm giving it to you. You need to be careful that when you're meeting people where they are at and talking to them about these things, that you don't come off as that guy with the gas mask and the AR-15 standing by stoically as the world burns to ashes. That'd make you kind of an a-hole as far as I'm concerned. Standing there watching something happen. Well, you don't understand, T. No, I don't. I don't understand that mindset. I don't understand being that close to a city when an event happens either. But that's neither here nor there. We can't scare people with our convictions. We just can't. We just can't do it. Not if we want them to come along. So, all right, we'll go talk to my wife about this and see what she has to say. She's pretty smart, and well, she's pretty, smart. See what I did there? But she was not at all into preparedness when we met. I was the crazy prepper in the family when we met, and now I will just say that more family members than not in our extended tribe are into preparedness in one shape or form or another. So stand by. We'll go talk to Miss Biscuits. Oh, by the way, there's your problem. See, this here's the coil thingy, and there's the dangly-do. That goes down to the valve cover to the plug on this. Man, I'm not crazy about the 5.4 motor, but anyway, you see there, that is a tab that's supposed to have a screw through it that holds this into the valve cover. You may notice that this tab has been compromised and there is no screw there holding this into the valve cover. So now the dangly-do became the flippy floppy, which is causing the cylinder 6 misfire. All these are technical terms. Feel free to look them up on Wikipedia. Hold on, I'll put you in the swing in a minute.
I gotta do my thing.
But do what thing?
I gotta wear my... Make sure there's no spiders. Oh, we're good.
See, y'all think I've been called Bear just until, as long as you know me, but look, she has a mama bear hat, and you have for a long time.
Yes.
Yes. So earlier I talked to the people a little bit about getting your spouse on board.
Right.
So I'm going to put the baby in a swing and you tell them about how much I badgered you to get you on board. Here, hold this a minute. Talk to the people.
I got all the badgering.
No, you did
all
not.
of it.
No, you did not.
I did too.
All right. Go ahead.
It was like nonstop. You know, I'd give him crazy eyes. Like, what are you doing? Why did you spend this money? Why are you doing this? And he just kept on. He just kept on and on. And
what you're trying to say is lead by example.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he kept on leading. But yeah, so he kept on with the food preps. He kept on with the gear. What else? I mean, ammo. There was just something else. And every week it was
medical.
Like, right. It was like a new box. And I'm like, what did you get this time? And
shooting.
So it was just the consistency that eventually, I mean, it was probably like a year. Maybe,
or more.
Yeah, maybe a year and a half of him just keeping on, that I'm finally said, okay, maybe he's on to something. And maybe I should quit giving him such a hard time. And then maybe I need to do my part.
Well, you did some research too.
Yeah.
And so here, hold the phone level. There you
sorry.
go. So you did research too, and you came away. See, this is another lesson. The things that you're concerned about aren't precisely the things that I'm concerned about. And you prep in different ways than I prep. And this is what I was talking about earlier, is meet people where they're at. I'm not trying to convince Harmony. I'm like, look, babe, there's a nuclear power plant that way, X amount of miles. And when it blows up, depending on the prevailing wind, there's going to be fallout. She doesn't care.
Yeah.
Right? But I can be like, honey, if the world ever ends, you don't want to have to wipe your butt with poison ivy. And she's like, that's right. 2-ply. I'm on it. Right? So go ahead. Keep going.
I'm the toilet prepper. Amongst other things.
Yeah.
I don't know. What else? I mean, I'm on board. I do it. You know.
But how did I get you on board other than leading by example? Or is that it?
I mean, that was really it. You just kept on.
I believe the word you used was consistency.
And consistent. Like, it was all the time. Every time. And I got to where, like, I wouldn't send him to the grocery store. Because I knew if I did, he'd come back with, like,
everything.
$20 extra, you know, of rice and beans and everything. And so I was like, we need something at the store. Oh, wait, I'll go. And
but that's the policy now. When we go, we get $20 extra.
yeah.
See, I started that. That was me. I did that.
Good job.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Thank you.
But it was just the consistency, and it always being in the forefront of your brain and your thoughts that brought it to the forefront of my brain and thoughts.
That's a good point, because I am...
Like, I thought about it, but it was like way back here and not up here. It wasn't of importance. It was like, you know, when we get to it, when we have extra money. Yeah, it wasn't on my priority list. And it being his priority, eventually it then became my priority.
Well, even then, that's a good point. But I never was like, hey, I didn't pay the power bill, but I bought a rifle.
Yeah.
You know, even like when I built rifles, a piece at a time. A piece at a time.
Yeah, it was like a piece of paycheck. Yeah.
And building out kits. Okay, a piece at a time, a piece at a time. Like, all right, we're going to make an IFAC. I'm going to get the pouch this week. Next week, I'll get an Israeli dressing. It's $8, but you know what I mean? And it's the same thing with food.
Right.
You eat an elephant a bite at a time. a pound of beans, a pound of rice, a can of green beans, whatever, you know, a can of meat. And so, but I think it's also important for me talking to you that I don't think I ever beat you over the head with it. I just did.
No, like, no, it wasn't like, you need to do this or else.
Right.
It wasn't any of that. It was just it was all about the consistency and just me seeing that it was something that was important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, at first I was like, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But it then became important to me that I was like, he's not so crazy, that this isn't a bad idea for us to do this. And we talked about, you know, not just being about SHTF, but, you know, TJ has a tendency of hurting himself. So he has a day, an actual day that he's not allowed to touch machinery, because every time he's touched machinery on this day, not every time, but
just the last 3 years in a row.
Consistently,
just the last 3 years in a row.
the same finger he has tried to cut off. So I'm like, nope, no more.
We don't mean like a little bit
Right,
tried
yeah,
to cut off. I mean like we'd stitch it, but there's nothing there to stitch.
Yeah.
Like where you go to the ER and the doctors are like, just, is it attached?
So an event,
Yeah.
you know, that he does that with his whole hand or something that, you know, it's never a bad idea to be stocked up on stuff. So,
like insurance. It's like having insurance.
yeah. You have health insurance, you have house insurance for in the case something happens. And even that insurance, like, you don't really control it.
That's a great
I mean,
point.
you do, like, you know, you have to pick your policy, but this is something tangible that you can see, you know, and homeowners insurance, like, you might be spending $200 a month and never ever need it, but you're never going to show anything for it either.
Right.
Whereas, you know, I'm not saying spend $200 a month on prepping, but, you know, spend $50, $100, like whatever's in your budget, and you'll have something actually tangible. Yep. To show for that.
I can get you 200 pounds of food for $100.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a small amount of food.
Ramen's cheap. You get a 12-pack for $1.74 at Walmart.
Is that all it costs?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Yeah.
Why don't we have 100 of
or
those
12-pack,
things?
whatever it is. It's like a case, baby. It's like 24 of them.
Doesn't selfieing make your arms so
Nelly.
strong?
No. Get away from those chickens.
So, cool. If you got anything else to add it, or put a bow on it, or hand me the phone,
No,
push the baby
just-
on the swing, whatever.
If your wife is hesitant.
This is the point. Get through this. This is what they want.
Yeah. If your wife is hesitant, don't beat her over the head with it. You know, don't give her the ultimatum. Because wives tend to not respond well.
Do this or else is usually a losing proposition.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah? You want to go there? Okay. But stay consistent in what you're doing. Explain. Like, don't just say I'm doing it just to do it. Give her reasons, valid reasons on the why. And, you know, it might be a year, it might be 2, but she will come around.
You know, that's true too, because I didn't apologize for it at any point.
No,
But
it was just something you did.
But
and
I wasn't
didn't.
aggressive about it either.
No.
I was just like, this is happening. I'm going to keep doing this.
Right. You can do it or you cannot.
I would love it if you were on my team.
Yeah.
And now you are on my team and you handle a lot of the stuff that I don't handle. And it's great divide and conquer specialization of labor, because you do the things that hommybiscuits.com, the softer side of survival. That's right. So look at that tagline.
Bam.
Bam.
Shalom.
Shalom.